So we are in the book of Ecclesiastes. Talk about a twist of a change of subject here. The book of Ecclesiastes. This is our second week of starting this series, and we're calling Ecclesiastes the search for meaning. The search for meaning in a book that talks a lot about meaningless, which is a bit ironic. I think this is probably arguably one of the most difficult books in the Bible. I know as I prepare each week and as I've been thinking about this series, I can't tell you that this is a hard book to even teach, let alone try to understand. And I think because of that, it's often really misunderstood. I think it's an misunderstood book. I think a lot of times you read the Proverbs that go right before Ecclesiastes and you're kind of like, yeah, I prefer those. I think I'd much rather do a series on the Proverbs than I would the book of Ecclesiastes, because the writer of Ecclesiastes, who's anonymous, it's someone called the teacher. You might assume maybe this is the King Solomon. There's a lot of kind of King Solomon-like references to this. We don't know if it's King Solomon or if it's somebody who's teaching, kind of relating and contrasting or comparing to the world of King Solomon. It could be either one. But the author devotes 12 chapters to an important aspect of reality that in Hebrew they call what? Hevel. You learned it last week with Corbin. Hevel. Hevel. And this is often translated in our English Bibles as meaningless. At least in the more modern translations, meaningless. If maybe you have a little older translation, you might see the word vanity. Vanity of vanities, or meaningless is often the word. However, meaningless to us, I think in the modern ear, sounds like the writer is making a conclusion that maybe life has no meaning, or that it's worthless, or it doesn't have no value at all. And that is a mistake. If you are hearing the word meaningless here in Ecclesiastes, thinking, well, what's the point of doing anything? Everything's meaningless from the sense of a conclusion, I think we're missing the point, because that is not what the teacher in Ecclesiastes is saying at all. In fact, that's not what Hevel really means at all. The literal meaning of Hevel, as Corbin pointed out last week, means vapor or smoke. You know, like when we light a match to light a candle and that smoke that rises from the match, that would be called Hevel. Or when you're smoking a pipe. I had a grandfather, Virgil was his name, hardcore old mining dude. And he would smoke a pipe. We called him Grandpa Pipe. And he always smelled like pipe tobacco. Right? So when I think of Hevel, I think of Grandpa Pipe, where just the smoke that fills the room. But it's Hevel, it vapor. You can't grab a hold of it. You can experience it in the moment, but it's unattainable. You can't grasp it. This is what the author is talking about when it comes to life. Something that quickly fades. And while it may have meaning in the moment, you can experience it, it doesn't really fill you in perpetuity. It leaves you up empty-handed. And the author uses it in two main ways. He talks about the Hevel as the temporary or fleeting nature of smoke or vapor. Again, something that has meaning in the moment but can't grab a hold of. It's fleeting and it's temporary. Just like in Ecclesiastes 1:14, as he introduces what he's going to be talking about, he says, I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. Everything I've seen. All of them are Hevel. Now, he doesn't mean just has no meaning, there's no purpose to it, blah, blah, blah. He means it's fleeting, temporary. I can't grab a hold of it. Like smoke and vapor. It's there and then it's gone. It's chasing after the wind. He says everything under the sun is chasing after the wind. The second way he uses it as an enigma or a paradox. This is probably one of my favorite usages of it. And I think this is where I see most of it in my life. Like once you learn this, you start walking differently in the world going, oh yeah, that's Hevel. I promise you'll be doing that after the end of the summer. An enigma or a paradox. It's something that doesn't really make sense. You look at a situation and go, man, that's not how it should be. This doesn't make any sense. Especially if you've just read Proverbs, which I think, and let's be honest, today we read Proverbs and we're like, I think these are promises. They're not. It's generalized wisdom. It's going, if you live this way, generally speaking, things will go well. And then you have Ecclesiastes that goes, but not always. You can do all the right things, you can make all the right decisions, and still your life will fall apart. It's Hevel. It's an enigma. It's a paradox. In Ecclesiastes 8:14, he says, there is something else, Hevel, paradoxical, that occurs on this earth. The righteous who get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked get what the righteous deserve. He says the people doing all the right things are suffering while the people who are doing the wrong things are prospering and have favor. He says, this too, I say, is Hevel. But in this way, it's not necessarily temporary, fleeting. This is paradoxical. This is an enigma. It doesn't make any sense for us to experience this. I think we live in a reality where there are times when the wicked seem to experience favor and blessing, and those who do the right things suffer. And so the writer of Ecclesiastes is pointing this out and say, this is hevel. This is like vapor and smoke, but it's paradoxical. The Ecclesiastes is the Greek transliteration of the Hebrew word kohelet. Kohelet, which literally just means the preacher before an assembly. The preacher before an assembly. It's like the author is preaching, exhorting their reader to understand these important realities in our world so that through these lessons we can become wiser. Ecclesiastes is a part of the wisdom literature, which tends to be Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. These literary genres that you can read and go, okay, let me think about this. Let me chew on this for a while. How does this make me wiser in this world? How does it find meaning in this world by chewing on these books together? And these are lessons that are not always easy to hear, but I have found they give significant meaning in our temporary and paradoxical world under the sun. That while there is meaning in these passages, the Ecclesiastes author is trying to exhort to us, it's not always going to make sense. It's not always going to make sense to us. You are under the sun. It's asking the question too, if you took God out of the meaning of life, let's just say you just enjoyed everything under the sun, or you got to experience everything under the sun that this world had to offer, does it have any meaning? And if you live to be 80 years old plus, and then you die, was it worth living? Was there meaning there? It's a hard question that I don't think many of us actually want to think about, do we? Is at the end of our days, are we going to look back and go, what was this all about? Why did we do this? What was good about this time on earth that we had? In this way, it challenges us to even rethink our lives and how we relate to God. I think of it like a bookshelf. How many of you have bookshelves still? You actually still have the hard copies. I'll never not have my hard copy books. I will fight for those till the day I die. It'll be hevel, but I'll at least do it, right? So in my bookshelf, I like to know where my books are. Some of you, I don't know, I don't do Dewey Decimal. I'm not that A-type, but I definitely I like my genres. I like to know where things are. It's nice and neat, organized. But I also have a 3-year-old little girl who indulges in chocolate ice cream from time to time. And I can remember having my bookshelf at home, and it's nice and orderly positions, and then my 3-year-old comes through and just rips everything, and there's chocolate all over the books, and it's just like, well, that was fun for 5 minutes. But it's comforting when you know where everything is, and you kind of have a right structure. It's safe. And our neat books can be a lot like our relationship and understanding to God. We kind of have our place. God has his place, and we kind of have our understanding of God, and it's nice and neat in a little tiny box. And we often think this is good. And I think a lot of us, we have this kind of this idea of what they call mythical religious fulfillment, where it's just like, okay, I have this kind of set idea that if I follow Jesus, if I know God, he's going to kind of give my life enhancement. This kind of steroid shot to my life where it's like, all right, he's going to make everything better for me. He's going to make me successful in favor. You love the Proverbs, and you kind of gloss over Ecclesiastes in your life. And we hope that this will be, maybe Jesus will add something to us. And if that's the case, if that's where you at, Ecclesiastes is like my 3-year-old little girl, and she's going to rip everything off your bookshelf. Because it's going to twist and turn upside down everything you thought you believed about a nice and neat type of life under the sun. But there's also some good theology here that we need to understand if we're going to walk this out in a way that's actually real. In a way that's real. Because what you thought was nice and neat about this world and how God functions in it with us is really going to be confronted in this book. But you know what? Again, that's just reality. If we don't explore and understand it here, guess what? When life hits you in the face, that is when you'll understand reality. And I'd rather have you get you prepared for when these things like, oh, Hevel, I understand now. We don't look for nice and neat necessarily or a perfect organized bookshelf because Ecclesiastes has told us that's not reality. Well, did I set the base? You guys okay? All right. Who's ready to get into some of the meat of it today? Anybody? You guys ready? All right. So today we're looking at the paradox of pleasure and production. Paradox of pleasure and production. And this is Ecclesiastes chapter 2. And usually I have you stand and we read a passage, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of walk us through this passage piece by piece and try to pull from the meaning what's happening here. Because the teacher begins his study of what it means to live in this reality and try to figure out what is good through a number of experiments. He's basically going to say, I'm going to basically try everything and tell you what this life looks like, what truly fills and satisfies a person. And he's almost like he's being told here at the beginning, you know what's really good? Really good is just live your life by everything that you desire. Just chase after every desire that you have. That is what it means to live good. And that introduces us into Ecclesiastes 2, 1 through 3. Just follow along as I kind of walk through this. It says, I said to myself, come now, I will test you. Now he's talking about his heart here. I will test your heart with pleasure to find out what is good, what is tov. One of our favorite words here, right? What does my heart believe? Everyone says this is good. Maybe my heart will agree that this is good. But also, this also proved to be meaningless or hevel, temporary, fleeting. He says laughter. This is kind of the word for like enjoyable, maybe even entertainment. Enjoyable, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly, basically saying, I knowingly just went and partook in wine and debauchery. I was like, this is probably foolish, but I'm going to do it anyways because everyone says it's good. My mind still guiding me with wisdom. This is what he means. I was still all there. I knew what I was doing was wrong, yet I wanted to indulge anyways. This is in the Bible, everybody. Kind of strange. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. So he's doing an experiment. He's taking in what people are saying. This is what's good. This is good. This is a good, fulfilling, purpose-filled life. Is it? Okay, I'm going to take a part of that. The teacher is testing the wisdom of what people say around him is good. Maybe it's a life devoted to enjoyment and laughter. He says, is that truly satisfying? Is it the pursuit of entertainment? Maybe those simple distractions from the toils of our world. Does that actually bring everlasting pleasure and fulfillment? Is it in a life filled with delicious wine, food, and experiences? Even going as far as indulging and embracing the sensual nature of life. He's like, is that what is good and fulfilling? He says, maybe these things will give something I can grab a hold of. Like, this is what life is all about. Maybe this is what will give purpose and joy, because so many people live this way. He continues on. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were born in my house. I owned more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself from the treasures of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers and a harem as well, the delights of a man's heart. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me, and all this my wisdom stayed with me. He's like, man, I did it all. Not only that, you notice in the first few verses here, he builds a garden for himself. He's like, I even built Eden for myself. I developed an Eden for myself with everything that you feel like a person would need to enjoy life. I owned everything a person could own. I experienced the power and influence that most anybody's ever had in the nations. I tried to find it all through happiness, satisfaction, and contentment. I experienced every sexual desire and experienced anything available, every delight of a man's heart. And became, again, the most noteworthy, influential person of his time. In verse 10, he says, I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. And my heart took delight in all my labor. And this was the reward for my toil. Again, I think as people who have read the Bible, or maybe you're kind of entering into this world of following Jesus, you would kind of think right there, he'd be like, and it was terrible. Oh, I'll never do it. But he's like, oh, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of those things that I toiled for. These things didn't feel bad or unhelpful in the moment. I delighted in them. He says these things brought some form of delightment and enjoyment and maybe even a distraction from the toils of my labor. It brought momentary happiness. And then you get to verse 11. He says, yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, when I looked back and I looked at all of it, everything that I achieved and everything that I owned, everything was hevel, temporary, paradoxical, and fleeting, a chasing of the wind. Nothing was actually gained. He said, I gained everything, but really gained nothing at the same time. He realized all of it was done. It was experienced in a flash, there and then gone. And then I won't go into it, but the next thing he kind of talks about is just how the wise and the fool both experience the temporary fleeting of this world. And there may not be a better series of passages that better encapsulates the way our world functions than this one. The messaging that we hear over and over again is indulge and pursue your desires, be happy, satisfied, and full using these things. This is what will bring you a good life. But Ecclesiastes, our author, is saying, yeah, and you have some moments of joy, but yet in the end, it's fleeting and passing. No one will remember 200-300 years ago the things you've done and everything you experienced. Very encouraging. But he's actually onto something really important here. What he's talking about, and I think what the Bible catches here, is that what modern psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. The hedonic treadmill. Because we live in a world of the weekend warriors, don't we? Where many of us will work so hard and toil so hard that Monday through Friday just so that we can enjoy Saturday. I just got to get to Saturday so I can party hard or do whatever you have to do. But what's the reality? Monday morning always comes. And it keeps on coming. We toil for years so that we just might enjoy the last few decades of our lives. We want to travel and experience good things, but guess what? That doesn't prolong your life, does it? There's no prolonging of life to this. And there's always more to see and experience. People try to gratify more and more through sexual desires. Yet that is a beast that is never satisfied. In fact, the more you indulge, the more hungry it gets. And it actually escalates if left unchecked. This is what's called the hedonic treadmill, where you I think I have a graph here. When you desire something, you go and you obtain it, which I think in our world is getting easier and easier to obtain. You then experience a spike in happiness. You're like, oh, I did it. Yes, I experienced that. I had that joy. But then it kind of gives you at a baseline that you begin to desire something else. You adapt to what this life of temporary happiness feels like, and then you desire something else. What's the next thing that I can obtain? And this is what the Ecclesiastes author is talking about here. He's like, I've done it all. I've experienced all. I've reached each baseline and getting more and more and more. And he's like, in the moment, joy. In the long scheme of things, hevel. Temporary and fleeting. That you can devote your life to temporary pleasures and even experience moments of delight and enjoyment, but one day all that will end and you'll realize that those things were never going to fill your life completely. They were like vapor or smoke in this world. And you're on a treadmill cycling over the same patterns until eventually time runs out, as it does for all of us. So how do we get off of the hedonic treadmill? How do we get off of this train that continues to be driven by our heart's desires to obtain and to experience and to enjoy these things? And let me just, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go have great experiences. Like, I don't want you to go canceling your vacations after this message, okay? Or that there is like terrible things found in pleasure. We're going to get to this, but I do want to see that God enjoys when we have fun. God enjoys when we enjoy this world, okay? Because the Lord isn't up here just to say, I want you to be apathetic, or I'm trying to kill joy. All the things you experience. He's not trying to do that, and the author is going to get to this. Let's not forget that our Lord Jesus attended weddings and enjoyed many good things in this world. I like to think that my Jesus liked to party. And he also told his disciples this. He says, "For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul?" It's like he is kind of putting himself here in the world of Ecclesiastes chapter 2, and he's like, you can gain everything. Like, one of the great temptations in this world is I can give you everything. But he says, don't lose yourself in the midst of it. Fleeting pleasure and productivity are not worth losing yourself or missing the way of life that the Lord has for you to try to fill that emptiness in your soul. Something the Ecclesiastes author will write later in later chapters we'll talk about. But he's like, I put eternity in your heart. That there is each and every one of us, and every human, there is a desire to fill what only eternity can fill. And often the first thing that we turn to is pleasure and production to fill those emptiness. And he's like, that is not the type of life that will bring you the satisfaction that your heart desires. So what does the teacher say? He goes into verse 24 through 25. After he basically unpacks everything he just read by the first line. I always like that first line. I don't have it up there. But let's see. He says this in verse 17. "So I hated life because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me." So he comes to a perspective of just like, I did it all and it was actually grievous to me, because the point what he's going to go to that I don't have in here in my notes is, he talks about how everything will just be experienced by the person after you. He's like, everything I built, everything I experienced, did I really enjoy it? Nope. It's all going to be the people who come after me, and I have no control how they use it. He's like, so it grieved him. So then he goes into verses 24 through 25, which is where I want to camp. He said, "There is nothing better for a person than eat, drink, and find satisfaction in their work." He'll say this over and over again in the book. "This too comes from the hand of God. For without him, who can truly eat or enjoy anything?" I don't know if that's what you expected the answer to be. You know, I think a lot of times he kind of throws a curveball at us a little bit in Ecclesiastes. Is, you know, what's better for a person is to actually eat, drink satisfaction in their work. He says we have to change our perspective. Because a lot of times what we're doing is we're trying to fill some emptiness, or we're working on what can we build and develop and that we'll enjoy someday in the future. Well, the Ecclesiastes author says one day, that day is going to come and you're going to be like, what was this for? What did I build all this for? I can't even experience it. He says, move away from putting all of your meaning in the outcomes of a life of pleasure and production. What the Ecclesiastes is saying here in verse 24 through 25 is the real reward is in the work, not in the winnings, said every boss ever, right? The real reward is in the work, not in the winning. See, we do so many things to obtain as the end goal, don't we? Build, produce, enjoy, that it will somehow give you an ending promise at the end of it all. And Ecclesiastes is here to say, it won't. It will actually leave you grievous at all the things that you missed. But here the Ecclesiastes says, enjoy the time in the work. The winnings are for other people to enjoy. Let that sit in your heart for a little while. Realize that everything, your toil, your labor, a lot of what you build and produce today will only be reaped and benefited by those who are unborn today. We are benefiting all those things that came before us, aren't we? And the generations will do the same after us. Yeah, we get moments of happiness, joy, fulfillment, but it's fleeting. The generations after us will enjoy the winnings. Ecclesiastes here is saying, be in the moment. But if you want to escape the hedonic treadmill, learn this wisdom. Find the simple ways to see the Lord in your work today so that you can enjoy it. And Ecclesiastes said, this is the hand of God. This is the hand of God. When you can recognize that God wants you to enjoy your toil, in your toil, and recognize his wisdom and his compassion, his love and his grace in the midst of toil. He says, this is evidence of who God is. And this is somebody who is a little more wiser. Now, if you're like me, you see something you care about and you fixate on the 99 things that are wrong with it, right? I think any leader in the room, you walk into your organization or wherever you're leading and you go, all right, here are the 99 problems that we have to fix. You toil to fix those things that are wrong. You stress over it. You stay up late. You think about all the things that need to get better. And maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's marriage stuff. Whatever it is. Do you look and fixate on those things first? But whatever you're doing is stressing about, the Ecclesiastes would tell you, it's hevel. It's temporary and fleeting. Nobody 200 years from now is going to know what you were anxious about today. Nobody knows the conflict and issues that you're going through. 203, it's hevel and temporary, yet it's consuming your life. He said, so learn. Learn to find the reward and the blessings of doing the work now. Learn to enjoy, to find the blessing of God in your toil now. That will leave you in a different place. This helps us to escape the hedonic treadmill of obtain, adapt, and go obtain more. So here are some tips for escaping the hedonic treadmill this week. And I've been kind of implementing these in my own life this week as I've been wrestling with this myself, is be mindful of the Lord in your work. Be mindful of the Lord in your toil, in your labor. Focus on really being present in the moments that you find yourself. Because again, you can raise your hand if you want, but how many times are we in our moments of toil or labor or working and you can't wait you're thinking all about the things you're going to do after all this is done? Like I found myself doing this. I coached my son's baseball team, which is hilarious because I haven't played baseball since I was like 12. But I can remember being on like the first base coach, and all I was thinking about was all the cool things I wanted to do after the game was over. And then I started thinking about this. And I started kind of looking around and I going, man, like, it's a beautiful day out here. Man, look at, I get to be with my sons as they play baseball. And I mean, they make Smalls from the Sandlot look good. But I remember just being like, man, it's such a blessing to even just to be able to be here with them. Like, I don't care how they perform, just to sit with them. And to have these memories with them. And it was because of this passage, it was because of this to go, how do I just enjoy the moments that God has given me, even when I'm thinking about all the things I need to do or want to do or have to do? I think as a parent, it's really easy just to be thinking, well, I can't wait till they get out of that stage of life. And I get it. I have a 3-year-old. I knew. But at the same time, it's challenging of me to go, okay, how do I enjoy this time with this 3-year-old little girl who wants to pull all the books off my bookshelf? What a blessing it is to have her. If it's a bad day, just thank the Lord that you got to wake up that day. I guarantee you there is no shortage of grateful, grace-filled, loving things that you can at least find in the moment each and every day. And the Ecclesiastes says, this is the hand of God. This is the hand of God. If you're tempting to be overcritical, be mindful of all the Lord is doing in those people that you're working with or among. When your mind goes to critical, even Ecclesiastes is a very critical book of other things, which is, it's good. But if your mind goes, I just want to be negative and critical of everybody and everything I'm around, maybe you need to stop and shift your mind into what the blessing is that you have found in those areas. The second tip is to share gratitude. Share gratitude. Regularly acknowledge and appreciate the good things the Lord has given you in your labors. So you're present, you're mindful, you're looking actively for the blessings and to be grateful for, and then share in that gratefulness. Share in the gratitude. This shifts our focus away from, again, that next desire. What can I get more of, obtain more, try to fill that emptiness that we have, but helps build satisfaction and contentment. And this is what I really, when I find Jesus followers in particular, some of them have really discovered what Paul calls the secret to contentment. Is just the ability of in seasons of great abundance and seasons of very little, they can find themselves content. And it's very drawing to people who are like that. Maybe you just go tell a coworker or someone, maybe your spouse or someone that you're close with, and just tell them how much you appreciate them. How much that you're thankful for who they are and what they are doing, and just that you see their toil in their own lives. I see the toil, I see the labor that you are conducting, and I'm so thankful for that. Hard days, go home and enjoy a delicious meal. How many of you are excited about that message? Right? You have a hard day this week, go home and eat and have a delicious meal. Enjoy it. Enjoy the little bits of good things that we get, and even in our hard days. Maybe you're mad at your spouse. Go have some fun. Maybe you're just so caught up in all the other things that's building conflict. Maybe you just got to enjoy each other a little bit. This world is fleeting and temporary. Enjoy each other in a way that honors the Lord. Let me just praise that. So no matter what you're doing, or whether you hate or love your job, all of us can stop and think about the blessing it is that the Lord has given us in our work that day. It really helps you get off that hedonic treadmill of trying to go and obtain more and more and more until you're at the very end going, what has this been all about? The world, again, is temporary and a time is fleeting. Don't waste your time in a life devoted to pleasure and production. It's a paradox. The things that you've been told that might fill that emptiness are not going to fill it. But enjoying the ride with the Lord every day, with our lives under his lordship in all seasons, he says, there is a wise man. There is somebody who can appreciate life and appreciate it with the Lord, who will, in fact, one day bring about restoration within creation. All of this is kind of leading into what he's going to get to the end of the book, so I'll leave that for another day. But there is still this idea that even as we know that this life is temporary and fleeting, we know that one day Jesus will come and restore all of that. That eternity is, in fact, in our hearts, and we long for it. And Jesus at the resurrection says, I am it. I will bring about the newness of life. I will bring you the fulfillment of what it means to be human in this world under the sun. And one day he will be the very sun itself that radiates through all of creation. It's kind of this, it's like the Ecclesiastes commentator is just like, I know that hole, I know that desire. And then Jesus is coming and going, I am that fulfillment. Be with me. Enjoy me. Build a life that is around me. And while it may be temporary and fleeting on this side of the veil, it will be restored and renewed into eternity. As Paul says in Philippians 4:12, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Now, Paul doesn't give us the secret. He doesn't say, here are the 5 steps to doing that. I think the wisdom here is go and learn that secret yourself. Go and enjoy the simplicities of life, being present and grateful with the Lord, honoring him in everything that you do. And he says, there is a wise man.